Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Decryption, and I hope you are well. In the final part of our Hitman Escorting AI episode, we're just fixing the final few bugs we have in it before we have a guard that perfectly escorts the player out. So we're going to fix the 4 remaining bugs, and then we're going to go from there. So let's get started. So we've currently got 4 bugs that I've noted down with the system as I've been running around, testing things. The first one is if the player's already left, the guard still gets angry, but we've already left. So let's have a quick look at that one. So the guard's trying to come and find me now, but if I leave this area and then walk around and let him see me, he's found me and he's telling me to get out, but I'm already out. So at that point, it should be fine. Granted, running the long way around is a bit of an extreme, but sure. But he still should look at us and go, well, they're already out. We don't need to, tell them off for it. So we have a bit of a state tree funkiness at the moment. And we already have this task here that updates the NPC's state or their tags to say whether or not the player is, currently trespassing. It would be nice if we could take that and just before we play the player has been found dialogue, we put it right there, to update the tags of the AI to see whether or not the player is trespassing, and then we add a condition to this one to say if they're still trespassing, play this, otherwise go back to the guard post. However, state tree's execution logic isn't always straightforward. So if we were to add a condition to this, essentially the exact same condition as this is trespassing, and we were to add it to this node here, like so, it's not actually going to work because we're updating the state tree in the middle of it picking everything it needs to do. So it's actually just going to come here, see that the tags disappeared, and then not know what to do. And then at that point, Unreal treats it as an error in the state tree and just goes immediately back up to root. And because this has removed the AI's trespassing, it just immediately goes straight down into idle. So that's not what we want because we need to keep it inside the state tree but bump it somewhere else. So what we're actually going to do instead of using the condition, we're going to remove that. We're going to add another sibling state just under here called player isn't trespassing anymore, go back to post. And all this is going to do is transition straight across to guard return to post, right? That's all that one's going to do. This one, player is trespassing still, found player dialogue, which will basically play the dialogue and then transition back to the find and escort, right? Now, the difference is we're not going to use conditions. We're going to use something we've not actually used yet of delegates. And it's a complicated word that some people get concerned about. Don't worry, it's exactly like the events we've been using, except it's more locally contained. So an event will tell anything we tell it to, the entire state tree, every parent, if we want it to, right? But a delegate, we're going to use it more in a more combined area, so we're just going to use it in this one task. And this task is going to output saying, hey, we've removed this tag. Hey, we've added this tag. Yeah, we don't have to use it. But what we're going to do is use the transitions instead of going to the next state to outright go to this one or this one. That's what we're going to do with it. It's super simple. We've already done events. Delegates are the exact same thing. So, back on the task, player trespassing state update, we've got this logic here we've looked at already where it checks the tag, checks if the scene, adds the effect or removes it, right? So what we're going to do is drag finish task off of the remove, drag off and call state tree delegate. And we've got this bind, broadcast, and unbind. We're just going to do broadcast delegate. Yeah? Just like the events that we've done, we're just going to drag off, choose promote to variable, and this will be NPC player no longer trespassing, like so. And I'm just going to mark it as instance editable, but not put it inside the input because we don't want to bind anything to it. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing up here, just for, in case we ever need it. But in this case, I'm going to drag off and instead call it player is trespassing. I'm just going to rename this one to capital L, like so. And that's it. So we're going to hit compile and save. The rest of your state tree will work completely normal, exactly how we want it. But what we can do now, inside this task here, you see you've got your 2 delegates here now. And what we can do is, instead of this transition of go to next state, we're going to do on delegate. And on this delegate here, we just need to bind which one we're going to. And you can see our task is still here. So if the player is no longer trespassing, we're going to simply go straight to player isn't trespassing anymore. Then I'll add another transition saying on delegate. We'll bind to the other one, no longer trespassing, of is trespassing, in which case we're going to go to the player is still trespassing. And that's it. That's essentially all we need to do. So this node is just going to come in, run the task. As soon as it's finished, it will call one of these delegates. And then it's going to jump to one of these tasks and move up. That's it. But before we try this, there is one slight issue we've got to take care of. Unreal isn't great at just having a node do nothing and instantly go somewhere else. I don't know why, it feels like it's something it should do, but technically this node never completes, or it never finishes, it never fails. So none of these actually ever run to transition it back. But I think this is a great point to add dialogue anyway. You know, the guard walks up, he sees you stood outside, you're sat waving like a muppet, and then he can just go, if he's already gone then. And then he just walks back to his post. That's one way you can do it. A cheating fix, if you don't want the dialogue, is just add a delay task in, which will make it look more realistic anyway. Where, you know, like, it comes in, waits for 3 seconds, add a deviation if you want. So he walks up, he sees the player, goes, just looks at him for a moment, then he returns to his post. Because it's going to look a bit odd if he walks up, sees the player, immediately turns around and goes again. He's not that bored with his job that he's just roboting around. So I'm going to add some dialogue, because I think it's cool when we do that anyway. So I'm probably just going to come and grab the play dialogue node, and I'm going to come and paste it back over the top of this delay one here. And the play parameters, I'll need to add a new one for this. So I'll just add a new node of... I'll just do it here, because it's kind of in between these. There we go. So I'm just going to do already gone. Okay then. And then he'll move on. That'll be the guard's day. So I'll copy that and I'll come and paste it over there. I'll record my lines. So I've recorded them, put the audio in. I've set it all up. So now we can come and test it. So if we run up this time and let him see us, he should warn us. Yep. But I'm going to run around to try to escape again. And now he's going to come and find us. But because we're not trespassing anymore, he should play his new dialogue. Already gone? Okay then. There we go. And then he should return back to his post. There we go. How cool's that? We can come back in, we're trespassing again. If he sees us again this time, there you go. We can do the same loop again. So the next one we need to fix is currently he shouts his sentence from far away when he first discovers you. So if I run up and I just barely go inside, as long as I'm inside his vision cone so he can see us, look, as soon as I start trespassing, hey, this is a restricted area. Please follow me back out. He starts screaming at us as soon as we've done it. And he's quite far away to be doing that. So I think what he should do is if he sees us start trespassing, instead of immediately telling us to get back out, he runs up to us and then tells us, hey, you shouldn't be here, please follow me. So that means if we sneak in through a window or, you know, a back way, whatever, then he can come and find us and escort us out. But to add an extra layer of realism to it, if he comes and runs up to us and we start running away, realistically, he shouldn't just keep chasing us forever until he gets bored. He should eventually go aggro because we're actively running away from him. So we can actually reuse the logic we've built in the find an escort to where we're tracking the player. But instead of doing it from a target point, we do it from his perspective, so if we're getting further away from him, or his original start point, should I say. So let's start with the running up to him then. So in our trespassing, this is as soon as it's marked the player as, you know, trespassing and he's seen us, and at first it just does warning dialogue. We don't want that. So instead what we're going to do is add a child state in here saying move to player, and I'll make sure this is just before the warning dialogue like so. And I'm going to come and simply give it a task of move to, and we can simply come up to the attack player and we can copy the tasks from this one. So I might actually just copy this one and paste it in instead, just to make it a bit quicker, and move it up, and we'll just rename it to move to player. There we go. So it gets the player's location, which is a task we set up before, and then it simply moves to them. We can give it a decent acceptable radius though, because he might not walk super close to you. He might get up enough so you can hear him and then speak to you. So I'm going to try 200 and see how it looks. Instead of going up to root, we'll just tell it to go to the next state, so it goes down. So that's essentially the first part of it done. He's going to walk close to us, then say it. So you notice if we play it this time, as soon as he sees us, he will start walking towards us. I might make him run. And you can see he is indeed coming towards us to tell us, to move. So I think maybe about a bit closer. Maybe about, there I think he should start talking to us instead of getting right up close. But there is one minor issue, and that's that if I play it and then run away, he's only going to walk to the last location. So you can see us walking, but I'm over here. So he's going to walk over there and talk to nothing. And this is down to how, on our task here, we have the get player's location. This only updates once, instead of updating multiple times. So it caches the location and that's it. The biggest fix we can do for it to make it work is on the get player's location, we can basically make it tick. So every 1 second or something, it updates the location of the actor. So it plugs in into the move to, and it successfully gets it each time. So what I'm going to do is just jump over to this get player's location here. And to make it extensible, so it can finish one time or it can run multiple times, I'm going to add a boolean saying update on tick. And I'll add the event tick function into it and drag the boolean in, convert it to a branch, and then connect it up. So if it's false, it's not going to do anything at all, right? But if it's true, then I'm going to set the actor location each time, like that. But on enter state, which I'll put above, I'll only finish the task if the update on tick is false. Because if we're not updating on tick, it'll do it once, it'll run, that's fine. Otherwise, we'll want it to update on tick, it'll run constantly. I'll make that instance editable, it doesn't need to be in any category, and we'll hit compile and save. Now I can come back to the trespass security. I'll move back to our state tree, click on our task, and I'll just make sure I tick that one to update on tick. So if we try it this time, as we walk near him, he should essentially try to walk to us. There you go, so he's walking towards us. If I move around, look, he is indeed following me. To save a little bit of performance, we can come into the move to player, and I can just give it a custom tick rate of something like 1 second, maybe 2 seconds. So instead of running at, 60 frames a second, that's 60 times a second, it runs once every 2 seconds instead. So instead of 120 times. So you can see, 2 seconds might be a bit much. So I might add 1 second, but you can see, it does work. And now we can follow it, look. So that's already looking a lot better. So I'll set that to 1. I think 1's a decent one. Even 0.5 is going to be better than 60 times. So I think we should make him run, because I think that would be pretty cool. And running does entirely depend on what system we're using, what game you're using, what framework you're using to do locomotion and everything. I don't think I've got anything set up to make him run. Oh, I have got something set up. Yeah, okay, so I've got something here where I pass a movement state, and it just selects his running speed. That's essentially it, and I've got the stats added in. So I'm just going to make a quick event to just call that, essentially. All this movement stats is a variable I've created, which just tells them how fast they can run, essentially. That's all it does. So if you haven't got anything already set up, all you need to do is call set max walk speed on the character. But I'm going to use this to plug it into my existing game. So I'll just come and create a super dead quick task. So I'll right click, blueprint class, state tree task, blueprint base, and I'll call it STT update actor movement speed. There we go, I'll open that up. I'll override enter state, and I'll create a variable for the actor inside the context category, so it automatically assigns itself. I'll get the actor, I'll drag off, and for me, I'll call set movement speed, which is my function, and I'll just promote the enum I've got to a variable. But for you, you can do an integer or something, it's up to you. I'll set that as instance editable so I can populate it, and I'll just call finish Excel. I'll come into class settings and just run this one, so update actor movement speed, and I can hit compile and save. Jump back to the state tree, and now I can, on this one, tell him to just jog towards the player. I'm not going to make him full on sprint. So I'll add my task into it, update actor movement speed. The actor is the actor, and I'm just going to say you're going to be jogging. I'm going to make this right at the top, so it's one of the first things it does, but I'm going to untick it so when it completes, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to take part in this effect. However, once it has updated the movement speed there, I am going to copy it and paste it on the next one, probably on the find and escort, so we don't have to do it on all three of those. Just so it goes back to walking, because if he's escorting you out, he probably is not going to want to walk, is he? So I'll put that there, and I'll move it to the top again. So it's the first one it runs, back to walking. However, if he is aggro, I am also going to make him jog towards you. If he's aggro, I'll probably make him sprint towards you. There we go. Yeah, I think that will do. So we'll hit compile and save. So I'll also just add it to the attack player, and I'll move it to the top, and I'll set him to sprinting. So if he's going to attack you, he's going to run towards you. I'll hit compile and save, and let's try it now. Now it should jog towards me, which will look a lot better. There we go. So he's seeing us, and he's really poorly jogging towards us to come and tell us, look. But he is indeed doing it. And then he's now going to walk us out, look. If I run off, what's he going to do? He's just going to walk around for us. You can, of course, make him jog if you want to. I'm just going to make him walk around so he doesn't, raise a scene. And if he finds us, he gets us. Yeah, so that's looking good. But the next thing I want to fix is the one where he sees us and we can basically run around for a while. I bet I can even make him drag out, to be fair. So he's running towards us. I'm going to run over here. And he doesn't really care how far we get. He's going to follow us to the ends of the earth now. Even if I leave, look, he's going to literally follow us outside of the house to come and tell us, hey, you've messed up. See? He's going to run everywhere just to come and tell us, you need to be out of the house. We're already out. So we need to definitely fix that one. So I think we'll fix it in two parts. One of them will be the distance. So if we get too far away from him, but he's still chasing us, then we will make him become aggro because we're running away from security. They aren't going to like that. And the second one is if we physically leave the area, well, he's not really got a problem anymore. We can send him back on his jollies, essentially. On our state tree, we still have these events here from the evaluators generating whether we're trespassing or not. So what we can do is add a transition to the move to player that says if the event with the tag of not trespassing is run, that means the player has essentially left the area. He's not trespassing anymore. So we can transition that to tell the guard to go back to his post because he's essentially got rid of us. He's chased us away, if you wish. So if we hit compile and save, and you'll see this time, if we play it now and if we run up to him, he will jog towards us. But if we back out, he'll just return back to his post. We've gone. You could, of course, make it keep going if you want to, but yeah, that's what I've done. He's not facing the right way, which is another bug we will fix in a moment, but essentially he will run up and he'll do what needs, which is perfect. The issue still remains that if we run up and run around, he'll continuously chase us, look. We're basically, speed running the Scientology place like all the meme people keep doing recently. So let's fix that then. So I think we can reuse the same logic we made in order for the chasing to happen. Because the distance, in theory, is always going to be either the same or a tiny bit less if he catches up to you. It's never going to be anything dramatic because he's moving towards you. If he was just stood still, then we could just use the distance between the two. But if you're running and he's running, the distance is kind of going to stay the same. So what we're going to have to do instead is duplicate the track the player task that we have, and we're going to modify it to get the last known location of the NPC and track the point of that. So if we're running away from where the NPC was, then we know the player is essentially getting away with it rather than going towards it. Because if he's going towards it, then he's going to go towards the NPC. So I'm going to come and find this track player from NPC task, because we've got to make a slight modification to it. So this function we have here to track the player from the NPC generally does everything we need it to do, but it does a few things we don't want it to do. Firstly, this tracks the player from the non-trespassing point. Well, we don't need that. We need to check it from the NPC's starting location only. And then on the event graph, this currently fires the player has left the NPC event, and we could probably reuse that to make it work, but we can rename it a bit better. So what I'm actually going to do is modify this function to make it more generic for our sake, and then we'll make a child of it to alter the functionality of it. So what I mean by that, in the function getPathLength, currently we're getting the non-trespassing point and the actor location, right? What I'm going to do is right-click this and choose collapse to function, and I'm going to call it getPathEnd. Now I'm going to mark it as a pure function just so it sits nicely, look. And inside here, all it's going to do is literally return the actor location there. That's all fine. We're happy with that. In the event graph, I'm going to come back over to this event here. I'm going to rename this variable from player left NPC follow to player outside progress. So essentially they've moved outside of it, so that's fine. Everything else we can probably keep as is. So what I'll do now is come back to my content drawer with Control or Command B. I'm going to rename this function from NPC to what it does, so the non-trespassing point. I'm going to rename this function track player from. In this version, I'm going to call it non-trespassing point, right? So it just matches more with what it does. But now I'm going to create a child blueprint of it, and I'm going to call it track player from NPC. And I'll open this one up. So this one's going to track it against the NPC directly. In the function, I'm going to override enter state, and we will call the parent in a moment, but the first thing I'm going to do is get the actor, which is the variable that's on the parent, and then from here I'm going to get their location, and I'm going to promote this to a variable called starting location, and I'll plug it in. It can just be marked as private, it doesn't need to be exposed or anything. And then we'll come and override the function getPathEnd. And on here, instead of just calling the parent where it returns it, we're going to return our starting location instead. Back on the event graph, we can now tell the enter state to call the parent function like so. Transition, even though we don't use it, but it's fine. Then we can come into the class defaults, and we can modify these distance buffers and everything if we want to. But for now, I'm just going to leave them as default. And what we can do now is back to our state tree, and we can leave this track player from non-trespassing point set up by default, right? Exactly how it was before. But what we can do now is jump over to the moving to player, and we can add this task in here as well. But we want our new track player from NPC. The player's last known location we want to add in so the NPC can track where the player is, so we'll add that as a parameter. The non-trespassing point, we don't use it now, so we can just essentially set it to the empty actor, we're not using it. And the player outside progress, we can come and set it to whatever tag we want. So I'm just going to set it to the player lost. We can add another transition for an event. When the required event of the player has been lost on this task runs, we're going to instantly push them to be aggro instead. So I'm going to come to our warning dialog, and on here we've added the apply effect to self in order to make them aggro. So I'm actually just going to come and copy that task there. I'll come and move it back to this player. I'll come and create a sibling task there saying set NPC as aggro, and I'll paste this task in. So it's making the NPC aggressive now. We'll add a transition to tell it to go back to root, so it just comes up to the top, comes down and runs aggro. But I'm going to move this all the way down to the bottom here, right at the bottom, because all of these tasks up here bounce the NPC's logic around to where it needs to go. So this one being at the very bottom means it's never going to run itself automatically. And then back on our move to player, when the player is lost, we will just bounce them straight to set NPC as aggro, so they're getting aggressive. So let's try it this time. So if I run up now, and the NPC will come and chase us, there you go, he's chasing us. If I start to run away, and let's put our debug visualizer on, he's now gone aggro look because we're physically trying to avoid him. So he's now going to come and attack us and do everything a aggressive NPC will do. He's probably getting in our face look. Obviously, if I run away, he's still aggro, so he's not going to stop chasing us because that's the logic. It just is aggressive. But if I try it again, we just come up. We can see he's going to chase us, which is all good. I'm not running away. Instead, I'm going to get out, so he goes away and says, okay, you're all good, we're not going to bother you. If I come and get him to see me again, he's not told us yet, he tells us to leave. You could, if you really wanted to, if he's even just seen you and tried to run towards you, you can boost up the warnings index, so he goes to, hey, I've already told you, but you'd have to work with your dialogue so it actually makes sense, because he's not actually told you. But that's up to you. But there we go. So now, if we try to escape him running towards us, unless we physically leave, he's going to become very aggressive, look. So he's chasing us, he's saying, oh, hey, you're not meant to be here, but we're going to run away. Obviously, you'd play some sound, you'd activate battle music, cha-ching, whatever Skyrim does, but he is aggressive because we're trying to run away. If we try to run towards him, the value should increase, so he shouldn't become aggro, he should just, like us for coming in. So there you go, we're running towards him, the number's going down, there you go. How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? So the next one we'll fix is the guard rotating around properly. It's just a small one, but it is kind of annoying that he returns to his post and he doesn't rotate properly. So you can see he runs towards us, he runs back, and he's now deciding to face the wall. He can't deal with the shame. So we'll make him rotate around properly when he reaches his destination. So back on the state tree, if we just collapse this down, when the guard is returning to his post and he sets his state to idle, just before we actually remove the gamepad tag, so when we set the state to idle, we just need to rotate him around to face the correct position, which at the moment we've hard-coded, so we do need to change that actually and do a better job of it. So what I'm going to do is come and create a parameter, and I'll triple-click it and call it NPC starting point, and I'll set this to a type of transform, because then we can capture the rotation as well. Then I'm going to come and create a new task, so I'll go right-click blueprint class, state tree task, and I'll set the blueprint base and I'll call it STT set NPC starting point. And I'll open it up. I'll override the enter state and I'll create the actor variable inside the context category. So that passes in. Then I'll drag the actor in and I'll do get actor transform on this one. Then from the enter state, I'm going to drag off and do get prop property reference. I'll promote this to a variable so we can get the correct property, which I'll call NPC starting point, and I'll make sure this is a type of input and make it instance editable. I'll hit compile. I'll change the data type of it to be a transform so we can set it. I'll drag off the reference and do set ref by var, and I'll connect it to the succeeded, and for the value will be our actor transform, and then I will just call finish task successfully. And then on the fail, just in case, I'll set it to false like so. I'll save, set the class settings name, set NPC starting point, and we'll hit compile and save for the final time. Back on our state tree, on the move to post, I'm just going to add in a new task, which will be our set NPC starting point. The actor is set up. The NPC starting point will be our parameters NPC starting point. I'll move this to the very top like so. I'll make sure that the tasks are set to all, so both of them count, or you can just untick that one. We've covered that loads of times now. So that's now going to get their true starting point. The destination, I'll set to the parameters NPC starting point translation. No idea why they've called it translation in that one, but never mind. So that means we can now move him around and he'll always return to his same spot, which is perfect. But now we need to handle the rotation. And the rotation is going to be better if he doesn't snap. He smoothly rotates. If you've got some proper mocap animations that make him turn around, even better essentially. But we'll do a basic smooth rotate script. So I'll just make another task, blueprint class, state tree task, blueprint base, STT, rotate actor, and we'll open it up. I'll override enter state, then I'll override the on tick. From here, I'll create the variable for the actor in the context category again, because we always want to pass it into it. Then I'll get the actor. I'm going to drag off and get their current rotation. Then immediately I'm going to drag off and do set actor rotation and connect that to the event tick. From the get actor rotation, I'm going to drag down and we're going to do R interp2, which is rotational interp2, so interpolate itself, over a time. The delta time is the one from the event tick, so it doesn't go super fast. The interp speed I'll promote to a variable, and we'll just keep it called interp speed. I'll mark it as instance editable so we can pass into it. I'll just give it a default value of 6, just so it's a fairly decently fast one. The higher the number is, the slower it's going to be. The shorter it is, the quicker it'll rotate. So 6, we'll see what that looks like. For the target, I'm going to drag backwards and call make rotator, and we want the full make at the bottom. And then just as a nice little bonus as well, just in case we want them to face away from something, I'm going to create a new variable called dest rotation. So the rotation you're destined to go to, I'll set it to a type of rotator. I'll drag this in. I'll right click and choose split struct. For the X and the Y, I'll just connect it straight up. But for this Z, what I'm going to do is drag off and do a plus. And we'll connect the plus to it. From the 0, I'll drag backwards and call select float. And in B, I'm going to set it to 180. And the pick A, I'm going to drag off and choose promote variable reverse. And I'll make it as instance editable and the destination rotation. Mark it as instance editable. On the destination rotation, I'll make sure we put that as input so that works fine. But this reverse, what it's going to do is if the reverse is true, it's going to add 180 degrees to the z-axis, so they'll face away from whatever rotation we pass into it. So if you want them to face the player, for example, you can just pass in the destination rotation of the player and the reverse is false. But if you want them, say, to run up to a bench and look away from the bench, you can set it reverse to true and they'll face the other way. So it's just a nice little trick wall here. So now that I'll go through and set the actor's rotation if we connect the R interp to the new rotation. But we need to actually finish this task, otherwise it's going to run forever and we don't want that. So I'm going to drag off the return value and do equals equals. And the R interp to I'll connect to the top one. This make rotator, I'm going to connect to the bottom one, because this is the target, this is their current version. So they're going to interpolate between the current and the target. And we're going to check this here to say, are these two the same within a 1 degree of units difference? So 0, 0 is going to take ages to get perfectly. 1 gives them a little bit of wiggle room. The higher you set that number, the less chance they're going to be facing exactly how you want. So if they are rotated at 0 and current and the target is 180, this will let it finish at 179 essentially. So it fits in nicely. And then we'll add a branch back here and we'll connect it to the equals equals, not the set actor rotation. And only if it's true, then we'll call finish task. They've successfully rotated around. We'll hit compile and save. I'll go back to class settings. I'll make sure to give it a name. So rotate actor. And one minor thing I forgot, if you just come back over, you've got the reverse here. I've done it the opposite way here by accident. So reverse should be 180 and then B should be 0. So if you tell it to reverse, it should add 180 to whatever you're doing. We'll hit compile and save, back on our state tree. So once they've moved to their post and they've successfully arrived, both of these have completed. We'll add a sibling state, rotate around, facing starting spot. And we'll just add a task in here of rotate actor. The actor's already passed in. The destination rotation is going to be our... So interestingly, I've just learned something about state trees. We can't actually get the transform for the rotation as a parameter here. It won't let us do it for some strange reason. That's very, very odd. So we're going to have to change our logic just a little bit to cater for this. And I've kept it in just to show you that mistakes do happen sometimes. Even with good planning, we can't get the rotation for some reason, but that's okay. So on the move to post, where we have the NPC starting point, what I'm going to do is change the parameter from NPC starting point, and I'm just going to add the word location on the end of it, and I'll set this to a type of vector. I'll then add another variable, double click it, NPC starting point rotation. We'll set this to a rotator, like so. It will error for a moment, but that's okay. On the rotate around facing starting spot, the one we've just created, I'll set the destination rotation to our NPC starting rotation, and everything else should be fine there. Back on the move to post, I'm going to open up the move to task, and I'm going to set the destination from the hard-coded one to our new NPC starting point location. And on the set NPC starting point, I'm going to edit this one. Instead of just setting the transform like we're doing now, I'm going to modify the name of the NPC starting point to location, duplicate it, and I'll set this second one to be rotation. Hit compile, it will error for a moment, that's okay. We can come in and set the data types of both of these, so vector and rotator, and then I'll delete the set transform and delete the get actor transform. We'll just do get actor location, and then we'll also do get actor rotation. If you want the scale, of course, for whatever reason, if they can scale, you can set it there. From this one, I'll drag off and do set var by ref. Succeeded, we want to set the location, and then I'll duplicate this again, essentially, next to it, but instead of the location, we'll set the rotation. I'll delete the set vector off, and we'll do it again, set by ref var, connect to the completed, connect this to the finished, and then we can now connect the rotation to it like so. Make sure you do the finish task on the failed, and make sure to connect the two refs like so. So we've had to do it a little bit manually because state trees is clearly a bug, let's face it, that's not right. But we can come back to the state tree, and now we can come in and we can properly pass in the correct parameters, starting location and starting rotation. We can hit compile, and then just before we test it, make sure your rotation around tells it to transition to the next state so we can set it to idle, and then that goes back up properly. And I've just realised we've made a slight mistake. He's setting his starting point when he's already trying to return to his post. At that point, his location is already set, he's already away from it. So what I'm going to do is copy this move to post task, and when the player is trespassing, we're going to paste in our new task right at the top. So the first thing it does is set the starting point, right? We don't need the move to, so we can get rid of that. And we don't need any of the events either. We just want the on state succeeded, go to the next task. And it'll set all the points there, which is correct. It will then move around, chase the player, do whatever it needs to. And then when it goes to return to the post, we don't want it setting it anymore. It will simply return as it needs to there. We can hit compile and save. Let's try it this time. You'll see if we walk up and let him run towards us, he'll start running towards us. But if I step backwards, he's going to return back to his post because I've escaped. And then he will rotate around. There we go. How cool is that? He was a little bit jerky. So if we come back to our state tree and select our rotation, we've got 0.1. I'm going to flesh it out at 0.5 and just see if it's smoother. And we'll just try it this time. So he runs towards us. There you go. He's rotating back around. Of course, if you've got better animations, you can do it. But now he will constantly always repeat the same actions because he can see us. He's returning back to his post properly. So I think the final issue we've got to fix now before we can realistically call this done, if we play it and run out and he runs to us and tells us off, right? If we realistically follow him out, he's going to immediately get there, turn around, and remember, we're still walking. Hey, I always immediately caught us again and says, hey, we've already told you, but we've not finished walking to him yet. So we need to put something in that's basically going to let us almost get there. We could technically move the target point out further, but unless you're going to move it far, far away, the player keeps following me, it's not going to be the best solution, right? Because if you imagine if you have a big mansion, you know, something like this, the guard's going to take you to the door and then it's going to kind of leave you there. There's not that much space down here that he really cares about. If you're down here, that's it, you know, he'll walk you so far. So what I'm thinking instead what we'll do is when the guard arrives to here, instead of just saying, okay, his action is done, turn around, hey, what are you still doing here? We make him walk back to here, and then we make him face the player, you know, kind of watching him. We'll set a timer, like a delay, and we'll wait for so many seconds. And if the player's not left, we'll make the guard give him a dialogue warning. You can leave now, sir, you know, whatever. And we'll do the same as we did with the warnings, where he gives you a couple of warnings, build-ups, and you can leave. You have to leave now, you can leave now. And if you don't, then we'll just make him aggro because you're not listening to what he's saying to do. And that way, we're not essentially escorting the guard out with the player following, we're making the player actually get out and the guard is just continuously watching them. So what I'm going to do is underneath find and escort the player out. I'm going to right click and add a sibling state. And I'll just call check player has exited after escort. So we don't actually need to check at this point if the player has exited because this tag here will check that. As soon as the player goes to not trespassing, that tag will fire and move them to the correct point. So this one is going to be the one watching the player. So inside here, I'm going to add a child state of face the player. And I'm going to add a task to it using our rotate actor, which is the function we've just created. And it's going to get the NPC. And the destination rotation, we need to get the player's location, essentially. So we can say, hey, rotate to this part. We don't have any way of getting that at the moment. So I'm going to come and create another task just so we can put it above it and bind to it. So I'll open up my tasks folder, and instead of get player's location, I'm just going to duplicate this one and call it get player's rotation. I'm going to open it up. So instead of setting the player's location like that, I'm going to get the player pawn, and I'm going to do get actor rotation. So in where we've got the get player's location task we created in the previous video, I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to change it to get player's look at rotation. So basically, look at this person, right? Instead of setting the player location there, I'm going to delete that off, and under get actor location, I'm going to drag off and do get find look at rotation. The starting point, I'm going to actually put the NPC in here. So I'll just create the actor context, the actor variable, and I'll set it in the category of context. I'll drag this off and do get actor location, like so. And the target will be our player. And I think the update on tick functionality is a pretty good one, so I might keep that for now. But I'm going to promote this find look at rotation to a variable called players rotation, and this will be a type of output, so I'll just move it up there, and I'll delete the location off because we don't want that, and I'll connect it up to the update on tick and the enter state here. So we essentially need to do the exact same thing down here. So I'm just going to come and copy all of this stuff up here, including setting the rotation. I'm going to right click, collapse the function, update rotation, and I'll put it right there. I'll copy the node, move this back, and I'll just paste it on the event tick as well here. So now they can continuously watch the player, or they can get it as a one-time off, which is great. I'll give it a class settings name, get players rotation, hit compile and save. Back on our state tree, above the rotate actor, or just below for now, we'll add our new task of get players rotation. I'll make sure it's above it, and I'll make sure it's update on tick, and we've got the players rotation. For the destination rotation, I can just come in and set it to the get players rotation, player rotation like that. So now that's going to tell it to look at the player. But what I'm actually going to do is untick both of these as the completing task, and instead I'm going to add a delay. And I'm going to set this to something random, like, I don't know, 5 seconds it gives you. And the reason for that is we wanted to just look at the player. If the player's being silly and jumping side to side for whatever, we'll just have him watch the player. But after 5 seconds, that's where we're then going to proceed on and say, sir, you can leave now. You know, kind of getting annoying. And that's where we'll start the ticking thing to increase. So we'll add a transition onto this one of on state completed. So essentially when the delay completes, we're going to have it go to the next state. And I will add a sibling state here of warning dialog to exit. And we're essentially going to copy everything we've got in here. So I'm going to come and copy the first one for the warning dialog, and I'm going to paste it inside the warning dialog to exit here. But we are going to change it. So I'll call it warning to exit 1 dialog. The on state completed, I'm going to make it go back up to the check the player has exited, and we can come and set some dialog on it. So I'll just open up my guards dialog, and I'll just come here and add a random one. You can leave now, and I'll add another one. Please exit the area. I'm just going to do 2 warnings for mine. So I will record the voices for them. You can leave now. Please exit the area. So I've added in the voices for that dialogue. I can come and grab the ID, and just like we've done before, I can just paste it into there to overwrite it. However, we don't want the integer warning parameter to be the same one as the warning, because otherwise we're going to get confused. So instead of times player told, I'm actually going to create another parameter, and I'll triple click it, and I'm going to call it times player warned to exit instead. I'll set it to a type of integer, and we're going to use that one instead. Luckily, we created the update int parameter as a generic one, so I can come and overwrite that with the times player warned to exit. I can also come to the parameters and use our parameter timed players warned to exit. So that one is essentially done. I can duplicate this node just below and call it exit number 2. Where we'll do the same thing, except I'll use my other dialog. So that's going to increase it by 1. The right will make sure it's equal to 1 as well for the condition. So if it's equal to 0, it plays that one. If it's equal to 1, it plays that. And then I'll add 1 more to it. Warning, exit 3, go aggro. And if it's equal to 2, so they've had, 3 warnings, instead of playing dialog, I'm not going to do that one. I'll remove the update int parameter as well. And instead, we're going to tell them to set NPC as aggro, which is one we set up earlier, to instantly tell them, become aggressive, and then they'll go back and start attacking the player. But some other things we need to fix just while we're here. Firstly, there's nothing in here which is actually checking if the player's left at this point, in this little gap here. We need to actually see, has the player officially left? So we can do a very clever thing with a state trees that we've not done yet using the events. So on the find and escort to outside point here, we've got this event that says when the player is not trespassing, go to this transition, right? But transitions can be led by parents as well. So what I mean by that is if we copy this transition and come just to this check player is exited here, and we add the transition in and paste it here, we can tell this, once the player's officially left, we can go and do what the NPC would normally do, which is just them returning to their post. And it's got the required event of not trespassing. But even inside all of these, that transition can still be active. Meaning if at any point during this, the player is not trespassing anymore, the guard's going to start returning to their post, which is exactly what we want. But if it comes down to here and sets it as aggro, that's going to immediately jump back to the top, which means it's not inside here anymore. But the final thing we need to take care of is the times player has been warned to exit. Because at the moment, if they catch the player, they'll say, hey, you, come with me, you need to leave. They'll say exit 1, then exit 2, then the player leaves, that's it. The guard returns their post, we're all good. However, if the player comes back again and they get the second warning, as soon as we come inside here, it's going to immediately go to the final one and go, hey, you're in trouble. So we need to set this integer back to 0. Now, we could go and set another task to set an integer to something, but we've kind of already got update int parameter here, which is a great task we keep using. So what I'm going to do is edit this one that we created before, and instead of increasing it, I'm going to add a boolean called set value directly. Now, I'll make it instance editable, and by default I'll keep it as false, right? But what I'm going to do is separate the get property reference and enter state across a bit, and the failed as well. I'm going to drag our boolean in, right click, convert to branch, and connect it up. If it's false, it will go and do the normal set, just like that, add to it. However, if it's true, what I'm going to make it do instead is from the reference still, we're just going to set the value directly. And instead of increase, I'm going to rename it to value just to make it make a bit more sense. And then I'm going to connect it to the finished task. So now, just with that little change there, this task all of a sudden goes from simply updating it to positive or negative depending what value you pass to it, to being able to outright set a variable too. So back on our state tree, when we're trying to escort the player to an outside point, what I'm going to do on here is just add our task of update int parameter. I'm going to tell it to update the times the player's been warned to 0. And I'm going to set the value directly, and I'm going to make sure it's an optional task so it doesn't matter. So now what that means is when we come in and the guard gives us a warning and says, hey, you're not supposed to be here, follow me, it's going to find and escort us, do all the normal escorting stuff, but it's going to set the exit warnings specifically, not the normal warnings, the exit-based ones, back to 0. And once he arrives at his destination, and the player's not exited or been lost, it's got to constantly check if the player has stopped trespassing, then they'll return to post. Otherwise, it's going to rotate to the player and wait 5 seconds, but we can add a deviation of 2 in, so, he's got a bit of a temper. And then it's going to come down into the next state, which is going to warn the player, and then update it by 1. And then it will go back up to check the player, it'll come down, it'll wait again, and then it'll do it again. And then it'll go back up, it'll come down, then it'll do it for a 3rd time, in which case he becomes aggressive and comes after you. The only last thing we need to do, when we're escorting the player outside, if the guard has completed his run, instead of going back to the post, because he's completed it, but the player's not exited yet, we're just going to tell it to come down, we're just going to tell it to go to check player has exited. So I know this state tree's got a decently well complicated, and it has, but that's what happens when you're writing big AI. So let's try it this time. So if I run up this time and the guard comes up and tells me off, saying, hey, you're not supposed to be here. Hey, this is a restricted area. Please follow me back out. So now we can follow the guard, and you'll see if we're lagging behind a tiny bit and he gets out before us, he's going to rotate to face us and he's watching us now, look. Kind of. You can leave now, and he's given us our first warning. He's now waiting again. So if we're still not exiting, he's going to give us another warning. Please exit the area. There we go. And then finally, he should become aggressive, because we've still not left. There we go. He's become aggressive. I did notice he wasn't rotating smoothly, though. So if we just come back in, when we're facing the player, and we're rotating the actor, it's only rotating him once, right? And then as soon as it's matched the rotation inside here, it just calls finish task. So I think we should add the same parameter of update on tick here, but, change it forever, essentially. So back on rotate actor, I'm going to add a boolean of continuous update, which is the same thing it uses for the AI logic. I'll mark it as a instance editable, and then instead of the branch here, what I'm actually going to do is just drag our continuous update in, convert it to a branch and plug it in. If it's false, then it will go to the branch, check if it's completed and finish the task, right? However, if it's not, then it won't do anything. It will just keep updating on tick, which is exactly what we want. And then finally, let's add some dialogue, because that was a lot better with the dialogue. So I'll just add another dialogue line for the guard, and I'll say, right, if you aren't exiting... There we go, that's a very Skyrim-like. Right, I told you to leave, now it's time to die. So yeah, so I'll record the voice lines for that, and then back on our rotation, we can now come and tick the continuous update to make him continuously face us. I will come back to the warning 2 dialogue. I'm going to copy the play dialogue back to the warning 3 go aggro, and I'm going to add in a random task and just paste over the top of it. I'll pass in our new dialogue to it, just to make it look really cool. There we go. So now it should come in. When it goes to the 3rd time aggro, it should check if we're actually allowed to be in here, tell them they've gone aggro and they're going to die, and then it will go to the set NPCs aggro. So let's try it this time. So you'll see, as we run up, the guard will come and tell us off. So he's telling us to escort out. We're just having a quick look, scoping the area for any other guards. You know, we see a treasure chest or whatever. We come down, but he's beat us. And you can see he is now smoothly watching us. Of course, you can have a proper rotation animation. You can leave now, but he's warned us already. But I'm not. I'm just testing his patience. I'm like, yeah, I'm not leaving at all. Please exit the area again. And now the final time, he's going to warn us. Right, I told you to leave. Now it's time to die. And he's going to come and get us. How cool is that? I have also noticed he's running to attack us as well, which is pretty cool. But let's test it the other way just to make sure it's all working. So he's running towards us. So he's going to walk out. And then we'll just need to make sure that no matter what aggro we're on, what warning level we're on, he lets us out and doesn't attack us. So let's wait for him to give us one warning. I'm not coming out. You can leave. Alright, okay, I'll leave. We'll just walk out. And there you go. He is walking back to his post. How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? That is the Hitman Escort Out AI with our own touches on top of it, which is very, very cool. We can wait for him to get back to his post as well, just to confirm that everything resets properly, and we can walk back in and he will give us a second warning. Hey, I already told you this is a restricted area. Follow me. And then I can run this way saying, no, not this time. Hey, where did you go? And I'm looking at a chest over here, you know, looting a guard or whatever. He comes back over. Found you. Don't try that again. Follow me. And he's told us again. So I'm going to run away again. But I'm going to exit the world. He'll come and have a look. He'll see me, but it doesn't matter. Already gone? Okay then. But then he'll return back to his post. It's very cool. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. There is the Hitman AI. It's very, very cool. And it's very well made, if I do say so myself. But yes, there we go. If you find any bugs with it, please let me know below and I'll put out a follow-up video to fix it up. And he's gone aggro already. I will try my absolute best to try and put all of this state tree and logic in my website below. If there are any specific tasks you need to see, let me know and I'll put them up as well. But yes, everything is there. Very, very cool. So with all of that in, let's have a look at the Hitman AI in a real world environment. So let's take a look at the final result. One of the guards has been using the viewfinder to peep on the barmaid. It's time to put a stop to it. Can't go that way. The guards will see me. Hey, this is a restricted area. Please follow me back out. Hey, where did you go? Found you! Don't try that again. Follow me. You can leave now.